Hey guys, tonight we're heading back to the soot-slick rooftops and cramped brick flues of Victorian London. But we're not strolling through the city in a top hat and overcoat. No, no, you're the one inside the chimney. It's barely dawn. Your back aches, your hands are calloused, and you haven't even stood up yet. You're 10 years old, give or take, and you've just opened your eyes to a ceiling beam wrapped in cobwebs and shadow. The attic around you is still asleep, creaking gently, with the weight of dreams and cold air. A secondhand blanket barely covers your knees, and someone nearby is snoring softly, the kind of slow, rattling snore that only happens when a person is sleeping too deeply to notice the frost nipping at their toes. You sit up, bones creaking louder than the floorboards, your throat scratches, your breath hangs in the air like a ghost. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're already cozy in bed, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I promise this attic is colder than wherever you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pull on your soot-streaked shirt, still damp from yesterday's sweat, and lace up a pair of boots that have more holes than sole. The attic is part of a cheap boarding house tucked behind a bakery and just under the sloped tiles of someone else's ceiling. There's no candle. You use your hands to feel along the edge of the floorboards, finding the narrow hatch that drops down into the master suite's hallway. You don't need light. You've memorized the way. Your fingers are black from the start. You gave up scrubbing them days ago, maybe weeks. Down the ladder, the hallway smells like boiled onions and tobacco. You make your way toward the front room, passing other kids who look just like you, eyes half closed, faces smudged boots, dragging slightly as if the act of walking is somehow offensive this early. There's a shuffle by the door. One boy wraps a rag around his wrist, it's still raw from yesterday's climb. Another mutters something about ghosts in the flue, which earns him a half-hearted eye roll. You reach the kitchen, or what passes for one. A dented kettle rests on a bent grate above a low flame. A mug sits next to it, half full, lukewarm. You sip quickly. It tastes like ashes, which is fair because yesterday's ash was probably dumped in the very same pot. Breakfast, if you're lucky, might include a dry heel of bread. If you're really lucky, it won't have teeth marks from whoever had it last. You sit on the wooden stoop just outside the door, wrapping your arms around your knees. The sky is still gray, a low-hanging, sulking kind of sky that doesn't promise sun, just drizzle. And yet this is routine. This is morning. Historians still argue whether these young sweeps were truly bonded apprentices or if they were simply disposable labor rented for pennies and soot. Official records suggest contracts. Reality suggests something murkier. You finish your tea, more warmth than flavor, and glance at the battered sack beside the door. Inside your tools, a long brush, some scrapers, a ball and chain for knocking soot loose, and a damp cloth to tie around your mouth. The master hasn't come downstairs yet, but when he does, it'll be quick. He'll bark the route point to the dirtiest chimneys and maybe, just maybe, give a nod of approval. You stretch your arms, roll your neck. You look at your hands again, blistered, chipped fingernails, soot under every line. And you think to yourself, well, let's go make the world just a little bit cleaner. Whether it likes it or not. The door creaks open behind you, heavy boots a grunt, and then the familiar clatter of iron tools being tossed into a sack. The master sweep has arrived. He doesn't say good morning, he never does. He mutters something that might be your name close enough anyway, and jerks his chin toward the door. You're on Upper Hill today. Number 11, the long stack. You try not to sigh. Long stacks mean long climbs, and your arms still ache from yesterday's 5-flue mansion. But you nod, grab your gear, and head out into the drizzle. The street is quiet at this hour, though not silent. A milk cart rattles past its horse, snorting steam into the air. A drunk mumbles to himself in a doorway, holding a bottle like a bedtime story. Somewhere, a dog barks like it just realized it's awake. You walk fast, boots splashing through the muck. The sack slaps against your side with each step. Inside, your brush, your scraper, your soot cloth, and a handful of torn rags you use for patting elbows and knees. The brush handle is wooden and worn smooth like it's been counting hands for decades. You pass other chimney boys on their routes, some younger than you, some barely upright. A few carry bundles of sticks or bundles of nerves, but most don't even look up. Everyone has their chimneys. You reach Upper Hill and find number 11, a proud old townhouse with ivy crawling up its sides and a door knocker shaped like a lion's head. A maid opens the door before you knock. She looks like she's never seen the inside of a flue in her life. Top hearth first, she says, and don't make a mess on the carpet. Lady Ellington's hosting tea later. You nod and duck inside. The hallway is warmer than expected. You catch a whiff of perfume and coal dust, a classic Victorian cocktail. The hearth is tall and grand with brass fittings and a marble mantel. You kneel and begin your inspection, running a finger along the interior bricks. Soot thick as icing coats every inch. Perfect. You take out your cloth and tie it over your mouth and nose. It's damp not for comfort, but to trap the soot before it claws its way into your lungs. You fish the brush through the hearth, guiding it upward. The bristles catch, then glide, then catch again. You start working the pole extensions into place, one after another. Clink, twist, push. The pole rises foot by foot until it disappears into the black. Then comes the moment you hate but know too well. You set the pole aside and lie flat shoulders, square eyes blinking against the ash. You reach your arms into the chimney and pull yourself up. You begin to climb. The flue is narrow. You press your back to one side, your knees to the other, inching upward like a human cork. Every brick scrapes your elbows, every movement leaves a whisper of skin behind. It's pitch dark inside, save for the occasional flicker of light from below, or the faintest glow from a chimney pot far, far above. You grunt as you move the soot falling in soft puffs like snow. It settles into your collar, your ears, your eyes. You blink, but it doesn't help. Historians still argue whether chimney flues were ever truly designed with sweeping in mind. Some believe that certain wealthy homes intentionally installed narrower stacks to trap more heat, which made the sweep's job even harder. Others think it was just bad planning. Either way, your ribs disagree with both. You reach a turn in the flue, a bend in the brick that forces you to contort like a soot-covered gymnast. You wedge your shoulder sideways, push with one foot, and feel the bricks give a little more room. Almost there. You exhale slowly, carefully, and then you hear it, the soft whoosh of outside air, the top. You reach the chimney pot and push open the cap. The wind hits your face like a slap from someone who really dislikes fireplaces. But it's fresh, it's clean, and it reminds you there's a world up here that doesn't smell like ash. You swing a leg over and sit on the ledge. London stretches out beneath you like a foggy quilt, soot-colored rooftops, crooked alleys, spires poking through clouds like forgotten bones. Your fingers are numb, your face is black, your stomach growls. But for now, you're on top of the world. You don't stay on the rooftop long. The wind makes sure of that, slipping down the back of your shirt like a damp finger and reminding you that sitting still up here is only a good idea if you're interested in freezing solid or being spotted by the wrong sort of person. You lower yourself back into the flue with the practiced caution of someone who's done this more times than he's eaten hot meals this month. Brick by brick, you descend using your elbows and knees like joints on a puppet. The soot clings tighter as you go down like it's trying to keep you. You reach the hearth again, land with a soft thump, and immediately begin the cleanup. The fallen soot lies in a thick, fine layer across the floor, like black flour. You scoop it into your sack, careful not to smear it across the lady's nice tile. The maid watches from the doorway, like she's deciding whether or not to scold you for breathing too loudly. You don't blame her. You smell like a fireplace, look like one, and probably shed like one too. After a quick rinse of your hands in a shallow kitchen basin, cold, gritty, and vaguely fish-scented, you're back out on the cobblestones. Next house, next chimney, next climb. The master has assigned you 4 stops today. No dawdling. You pass a baker setting out trays of day-old rolls, a butcher sharpening his cleaver with the kind of determination that makes you walk just a little faster, and a group of street kids playing marbles with bits of coal. And then, there they are, your crew. Clustered near a stack of bundled brush rods, the other apprentices are waiting for the master. A few are younger than you, 1 or 2 older, but slouching like the job has carved years into their backs. The master sweep arrives. His coat is patched at the elbows and his voice could grate cheese. Right then he barks, "Your second stack on Charlotte Row. Jones, you've got the bakery oven flue. And you," he points at the smallest in the group, "you'll ride the twist stack. Tiny enough, aren't you?" The child nods, though you're not sure he even knows what a twist stack is. You feel a little twist in your stomach. He can't be more than 7. Historians still argue whether climbing boys were truly apprentices or more like leased labor. On paper, masters were required to care for their health, provide food, and limit dangerous climbs. But in practice, the smaller you were, the more flues you fit into. Period. One boy starts coughing a deep, rattling wheeze. He waves it off with a grin. "Just soot trying to come back up," he jokes. You smirk, but it's the kind of joke that doesn't get funnier the longer you've been in the trade. The master hands out tiny tins of grease for knees mostly and smacks one of the boys on the shoulder. "If you don't come out clean, I'll send the brush in after you." That one actually isn't a joke. A moment later, you're walking again paired with a boy named Alfie. He's your age, give or take, and probably hasn't bathed since Queen Victoria's last haircut. You both head toward the next house, swapping quiet comments about which chimneys are the worst. Smithy's forge, he says, hottest flue I've ever touched. Nearly cooked my boots off. You tell him about the mansion on Baker Street, with the flue so narrow you swore it was just decorative. I came out looking like a pencil, you mutter. He snorts. You arrive at the next house, another tall one, and this time the chimney bends at an angle. Alfie groans. Flue's got a shoulder in it. That means an extra turn, which means someone has to guide the brush from the hearth while the other climbs. You draw the short straw. Alfie kneels at the bottom while you wedge your body into the flue once again. The soot here is stickier, clumping against your chest as you push upward. You reach the bend, wedge yourself sideways, and wait for the brush to bump against your feet. You grab it, push upward, wiggle it until you feel it pop through. You pause there, halfway between floors, resting for just a second with your ear pressed to the chimney wall. You can hear it, the muffled whirl of boots on floorboards, the clink of teacups upstairs, the tick of a grandfather clock counting down to someone else's moment. You exist in the in-between, in the space no one thinks about until smoke won't rise. And then, like always, you move again, because no one pays chimney boys to sit and listen. Back out on the rooftop again, knees bruised, elbows scraped, but the job's done. You brush yourself off with little effect. Soot doesn't really come off, it just settles deeper. The clouds have started to shift overhead, revealing a thin stripe of pale blue sky. You don't trust it. In your experience, London weather promises hope just before it dumps a bucket on your head. You sit down on the flat ledge of the roof legs, dangling over a pipe that probably groaned every time someone in the parlor sneezed. Your fingers find a leftover lump of potato in your pocket from yesterday's dinner. It's dry and slightly fuzzy around the edges, but it's food. You eat while looking out over the city, a sea of chimneys all puffing like lazy giants. The roofs stretch in every direction, slate tile, smoke-stained brick. The Thames glints somewhere off to your left, more gray than silver. This is your world, a city built from rooftops down. You lean back a little, rest your head on the chimney stack behind you, and let the breeze do its best to cool the sting in your wrists. Down in the streets, everything looks different. People bustle past each other. Umbrellas bloom like mushrooms, carriages rumble by. But up here, things are slower. You hear the creak of a hatch. Alfie's head pops up beside you, coughing. Found a pigeon in that one, he wheezes. Dead. Real old. Looked like it owed someone money. You chuckle and scoot over to make space. He sits with a groan, pulls a crumbling biscuit from his sleeve, and starts gnawing on it with the grim focus of someone pretending it tastes like steak. Reckon we'll ever get taller? He asks through a mouthful of crumbs. You shrug. Maybe if we quit. Historians still argue whether prolonged exposure to chimney flues caused stunted growth in climbing boys. Some believe the constant compression of the spine, poor diet, and physical trauma did more than just hurt, it changed their bodies. Others say the boys were small because that's why they were chosen. Either way, you're not exactly sprouting. Alfie finishes his biscuit, wipes his hands on his already filthy pants, and squints at a cluster of new chimneys being built 2 streets over. Think we'll ever get to build one of those? Or just clean them till we drop? You don't answer, not because you don't know, but because you do. A crow lands on the chimney beside you. It cocks its head, gives a lazy caw, and hops down out of sight, probably looking for more dead pigeons. Alfie lies back on the roof and closes his eyes. 5 minutes, he mutters. Just 5. Wake me if the master shows. You nod, leaning into the stack again. Your fingers trace the bricks beside you, each one smoother than you'd expect, polished by decades of smoke, and hands like yours. You wonder how many other boys have sat right here. Rested their sore bodies, picked the same soot from under their nails, stared at the same skyline, and wondered what came after soot. One particularly strange chimney you cleaned last week had initials carved into the bricks halfway up. You remember pausing upside down, pressed against the wall, staring at the tiny marks, TR, 1832. Whoever he was, he'd been there too. In the dark, in the dust. Alfie snores softly beside you, one arm across his face. You pull your knees up to your chest and try not to think about the next house or the one after that. Instead, you let the moment hold you. The rooftop breeze, the faint smell of bread from the bakery chimney, the muffled rattle of a cart below. For a few minutes, soot becomes stillness, and soot stillness is a kind of peace, even if it never lasts long. The 5 minutes pass like fog rolling over rooftops, slow, then suddenly gone. You nudge Alfie awake with the toe of your boot. He snorts, swipes at his face, and groans. Right then, back in we go, eh? You both lower yourselves back into the chimney, carefully, like returning to a conversation you never really left. This one's easier. wider for one thing, and less twisty than the last. You can even almost stand upright inside the upper flue, not that you'd recommend it for a holiday home. You scrape, brush, knock down the clinging soot with your tools. It drizzles down around you like black snow coating your shirt, your hair, your tongue when you forget to clench your teeth. You hum a tune you don't remember learning, just something low and slow to fill the space. And then your hand strikes something hard, not brick, something lodged. You pause. It's a lump covered in dust, stuck tight in a corner of the flue. You lean in and peer closer. It's not just soot, it's feathers. Oi, Alfie, you call down. Got another one? He groans. What is it this time, bird bone someone's lost dinner? You reach in and carefully tug the thing free. It falls with a soft thud into your lap. A bird, or what used to be one. Long dead, brittle, half mummified by heat and soot. A pigeon, most likely, judging by the shape, still faintly identifiable beneath its charcoal crust. Alfie retrieves it with 2 fingers and holds it up to the light. Looks like he took a wrong turn 10 winters ago. He tosses it into the rubbish sack with theatrical disdain. Poor bloke never saw tea again. It's a common thing, really. Dead birds, bits of cloth, the occasional letter or love note lost through a careless fireplace draft. Chimneys are time capsules no one asked for. Historians still argue how much non-soot debris ended up lodged in the flues of Victorian homes. Some believe homeowners regularly lost jewelry papers, even small pets, to the vertical maze. Others say such stories are more chimney sweep folklore than fact, but every sweep has a tale of something odd in the stack. Once you even found a porcelain doll's head wedged between the bricks. No body. Just the head one eye cracked, staring up at you like it remembered being loved. The job continues. You scrub, scrape, and descend. The soot stings your eyes when it flakes loose. You cough, blink, press your damp cloth tighter over your nose. When you finally step out of the hearth, the maid is waiting. You're leaving footprints, she says coldly, on the tile. You glance down. Soot, sure enough. You mutter a sorry and start wiping the prints with your sleeve. She watches for a second, then disappears into the next room, trailing the scent of lavender soap. The contrast makes your nostrils twitch. You and Alfie pack up your tools and exit through the kitchen. The cook doesn't look up, just points to the back door with a spoon. You're used to this, too. The sweeps are never sent through the front. Once outside, Alfie spits in the dirt and wipes his hands. Half done, he says, and I already smell like a Sunday roast left too long in the grate. You don't disagree. Your master's cart is a few blocks over. You toss your soot bags into the barrel and check the list pinned inside the door. 2 more houses before dusk, both marked with stars, tight chimneys probably, the kind that were built by someone who thought children didn't need shoulders. You walk. The wind picks up, stirring bits of ash from your sleeves. You think about the bird again, the way its feathers still held shape even after so long in the dark. You wonder if the chimney remembers you when you leave, if somewhere in the walls your name has joined the soot. The next chimney isn't just tight, it's mean. You know it the moment you step into the drawing room. It's got that look. A narrow hearth flue hidden deep behind an ornate iron grate that some fanciful architect probably sketched with no thought at all for the poor soul who'd be shimmying through it decades later. The house belongs to a retired barrister. You can tell by the framed legal certificates on the wall, the stern gaze in the painted portrait over the mantel, and the sharpness in the butler's eyes as he watches you cross the rug. You'll be working alone in this one, the butler says. The gentleman does not like voices above his study. You nod, though your shoulders sink a little. It's always harder without someone guiding the brush or spotting from below. But rules are rules, and coin is coin. You kneel at the hearth, unwrap your brush, and begin threading it up with practiced fingers. The pole clicks together one section at a time. Thump, twist, push, thump, twist, push. The sound is rhythmic, almost soothing. You smear a bit of grease on your elbows and forehead, knowing it won't help much, but it's habit by now. And then you begin the climb. The flue is a beast. No gentle curve, no kind bricks. This one is jagged, rough, and narrow enough to make you rethink every meal you've ever eaten. You brace yourself and go up slowly, inch by inch, trying not to think about the fact that your entire body is pressed between walls built before your grandparents were born. Halfway up, your foot slips slightly and your shin scrapes hard against a projecting brick. You hiss between clenched teeth, then keep climbing. Soot rains down in little avalanches with every movement. It's like climbing inside a bag of old flour that resents being disturbed. You finally reach the first bend, always the worst part. You twist your hips sideways, tuck your chin to your chest, and breathe shallow through the cloth. You push the brush higher, feel it catch, then release. You give it a few more turns, and then pause. There's a scraping sound just above you. You freeze. Not your brush, something else. You tilt your head back and squint into the dark. For a moment, you see it something wedged into the mortar like a little bundle. You reach up carefully, fingers brushing the soot aside. It's a piece of cloth wrapped around something small and hard. You tug gently, and the bundle dislodges and drops straight into your lap. You cradle it for a moment. It's heavier than expected. You unwrap the cloth. Inside, a handful of coins. Rusted but still coins. A few old halfpennies, maybe a shilling, and something that looks suspiciously foreign. You stare at them dumbfounded. People hide things in chimneys more often than you'd expect. Secret letters, lucky charms, even bottles with notes inside. But money, that's rare. Historians still argue whether hiding valuables in chimneys was common practice or more of a last-ditch effort during emergencies. Some suggest it was for safekeeping during raids or robberies. Others think it was simply desperation, hide it in the one place no one wants to look. You pocket the coins quickly, not out of greed, but survival. The master won't ask, and you're not going to tell. You finish the climb, force the brush through the final length, and then begin your descent. Every brick that bruised you on the way up bruises you again on the way down, just in reverse order. You drop back into the drawing room covered in soot, hands trembling just slightly. The butler eyes you but says nothing. You pack your tools, nod once, and exit through the rear. Alfie is waiting outside, chewing a stalk of something green he probably found growing out of a wall. "That bad, huh?" he asks, seeing your face. You nod, but clean now. He grins. "Well then, on to the next. Let's see which one tries to eat us alive this time." You fall into step beside him. Your knees sore, your back stiff, your pocket now just a little heavier than it was before. Not bad for a chimney full of secrets, and not a bad story for the fire barrel later tonight. The last house of the day is the kind you never look forward to. Tall, thin, newer construction, but with flues that twist like angry vines, built by someone who wanted fireplaces in every room and didn't care how the smoke got out. The master sends you and Alfie together, but there's a catch. "This one's got a narrow, split flue," he mutters. "You'll need to send the little one." Your stomach drops a little. You know what that means? Not Alfie, not you. Him. You turn around and see the boy barely up to your ribs' knees like twigs, face smudged permanently with soot. His name's Charlie, though everyone just calls him the mouse. He can't be more than 7, 8 at the most, and today he gets the tightest chimney of them all. You crouch beside him. You ever done a forked flue before? He shakes his head, doesn't speak, just looks at you with big eyes and a flicker of something, fear maybe, or just fatigue. You nod slowly. "Okay, we'll guide you. I'll be up top. Alfie's on the hearth. You're the thread between us, yeah?" Charlie nods again. He pulls on his soot cloth with trembling fingers. His knuckles are scraped from yesterday, probably the day before too. You all head inside. The house is quiet. An elderly man lets you in with a curt nod and points toward the hearth like it's beneath him to even acknowledge your presence. Alfie kneels at the base of the fireplace and clears the grate. You go straight to the roof, access a narrow ladder, through an attic hatch barely wide enough for your shoulders. The wind greets you with a slap. You crouch beside the chimney stack and peer down into the flue. "Ready when you are," Alfie calls from below. You listen, then a cough, a shuffle, a small grunt. Charlie's climbing. You press your face to the flue opening, listening for the sound of him inside the walls. You can hear him scraping, breathing, the occasional muffled wheeze. Almost at the fork, Alfie calls. You call down gently, "Charlie, you all right?" No answer for a moment. Then faintly, "Yeah." Your fingers tighten on the brick. The split comes at the third-floor level. The flue divides there, one branch leading to an upstairs fireplace, the other to the study. It's not meant for anyone to pass through, just for smoke to choose a direction. But now a small boy is wedging himself through. Historians still argue whether climbing boys were truly sent into split chimneys or whether that's one of those stories that sounds worse in hindsight. But ask anyone who's done the job, and they'll tell you when the master says, "Fit you fit." The scraping sounds again, then silence. You freeze. You lean in, ear pressed to the opening. "Charlie." Nothing. You shout louder, panic threading into your voice. "Charlie, say something." And then finally, "I'm stuck." Your heart drops into your boots. You scramble to grab the brush handle and start knocking gently on the bricks near the split. "Where are your feet?" "Middle. I can't move." You breathe slowly, trying not to panic. "Okay, stay still. We're gonna get you out." You call down to Alfie. He's already working removing bricks at the hearth base, reaching in with a hooked rod. You reach down from the roof with your pole, knocking gently near where the split might be. "Charlie," you call again. "I'm going to push the brush. You tell me when you feel it." A pause, Then, okay, you slide the rod in, inch by inch. The soot falls in soft plumes. The bricks press back against your knuckles. Tap, tap, tap. Then Charlie's voice, I feel it. Good, stay still. I'm gonna guide it up your side. Wiggle when you can. It takes 3 long, terrifying minutes. You can hear him breathing hard, trying to move his shoulders, his arms, anything. Then finally, you feel the brush shift. A moment later, Alfie calls up, I see his feet. Relief hits you like rain in August. They pull him through slowly. When he lands on the hearthrug, coughing and black from head to toe, you think he might be crying, but it's hard to tell through the soot. You climb down as fast as your legs will carry you. Charlie sits on a crate sipping water from a tin cup. His eyes are red, his hands shaking. You sit beside him and don't say a word. Just pat his back. He looks at you eventually and says, I didn't like that one. You laugh softly, me neither, mouse. He leans against your arm. Not for long, but long enough. Sometimes soot sticks to more than just skin. The street outside is quieter now, dusk beginning to pull its shawl over the rooftops. Lamps glow weakly through the grime on their glass, and the smoke that curls up from 100 chimneys looks more like sighs than signals. You and Alfie walk side by side with Charlie trailing behind, his arms folded tightly over his soot-smeared chest, like he's trying to hold in what little warmth he has left. You glance back every so often just to make sure he's still upright. He is, just barely. You've only got one stop left before returning to the yard, but first, a bit of rest. You settle on the low brick wall behind a row of stables near a barrel of water, used mostly for rinsing boots and occasionally scrubbing the worst of the soot from your face. Charlie dips a cloth in the water and presses it to his forehead. He doesn't speak. You don't push him. Instead, you lean back against the wall and listen. Hoofbeats on cobblestones, distant shouting from a vendor packing up, and then something softer, a tapping, rhythmic, deliberate. You sit up. Down the lane walks a man in a dark coat and tall hat, carrying a peculiar stick. Not a cane, not exactly, but longer with rings notched into the wood and a copper tip that catches the fading light. You recognize him instantly. Everyone does. The chimney doctor, Alfie whispers. His real name's Mr. Thorne, but no one calls him that. He's an inspector of sorts officially tasked with ensuring chimneys meet safety standards, unofficially feared for knowing too much. He doesn't smile. He rarely speaks above a murmur. But when he walks into a flue house, masters start sweating. He stops beside your group, eyes each of you carefully. His gaze lingers on Charlie. Twist flue, he asks quietly. You nod. He kneels beside Charlie, not touching him, just looking. How old are you, boy? Charlie shrugs. Don't know. The man frowns, not angrily, more like a carpenter finding a crack in a fine piece of wood. He reaches into his coat and produces a small notebook, scribbles something, then stands. Without another word, he walks away, tapping his copper-tipped stick against the ground. Historians still argue what role inspectors like Thorne truly played. Were they reformers, enforcers, apathetic bureaucrats? Some say their presence helped bring about the 1875 act that banned the use of child sweeps under 13. Others believe they simply turned a blind eye until public pressure forced their hand. But for the boys in the soot, their presence was both hope and danger. If they shut a flue house, where did the boys go? Who fed them? Who replaced the lost wages? Charlie watches him go with a look that's more confusion than curiosity. You pour a ladle of water into your hands and scrub your face. The soot runs in streaks down your cheeks and into your collar. Think he'll shut Master down? Alfie asks. Not today, you say, but maybe soon. He snorts. Sure, just in time for us to be too tall to matter. You all fall quiet. The air smells like coal smoke and wet stone. A rat scurries past the base of the barrel and disappears into a drain. You sit a while longer, just letting the ache settle. Your back feels like it belongs to someone twice your age. Your fingers throb, your eyes sting. But you're not done. One more house. You rise slowly, gather your tools. Charlie follows quieter now, but walking on his own. The last chimney is an easy one, relatively speaking. A single straight shaft in a baker's cottage near the edge of the market square. You've cleaned it before. You know its quirks, the slight curve near the top, the hollow brick where pigeons sometimes roost. The baker greets you with a wave and a warm roll. You break it in half and pass the larger piece to Charlie. He blinks at it, then devours it in 4 bites. Inside the hearth is already prepped. Alfie gets to work brushing while you check the draft. Everything moves quickly, cleanly. A final climb, a final scrape, a final descent into flickering firelight and the scent of yeast and ash. And then you're done. No applause, no pay on the spot, just a nod from the baker and another mark on the master's ledger. You step outside and breathe deeply. The sky is indigo now, and the stars have begun to punch their way through the smoke. Charlie leans against the wall. Alfie stretches with a loud groan. And somewhere behind you, Mr. Thorne's stick taps faintly against stone, reminding everyone that soot doesn't stay hidden forever. You return to the yard just as the street lamps start to flicker on their weak flames trembling inside glass globes streaked with smoke. The sky above has sunk fully into night, and the city around you has settled into its evening rhythm horses, stabled carts stacked away, and chimney pots no longer huffing. You push through the gate into the sweep's yard where the air hangs thick with soot and sweat and something sour like old cabbage that gave up. The master is there, of course. He never leaves early. He stands by the barrel scale arms folded waiting for the bags of soot, like they're bags of gold. You haul yours over heavy and warm the fabric stained through. Alfie follows grunting under the weight of his. Charlie trails behind, dragging his sack like a shadow. On the scale, the master says without looking up. You hoist the sack onto the iron plate and step back. He reads the weight grunts approvingly and scribbles in a small leather-bound ledger. No thank you, no good job, just soot math and muttering. Charlie's bag barely twitches the scale. The master frowns. That all? You open your mouth to say something, anything, but Charlie nods quickly and ducks his head. The master doesn't press, just writes something smaller in the margins. Historians still argue about how soot was valued in the Victorian sweep trade. It wasn't just waste, it was commodity. Collected, sifted, and sold for use in blacking polished brickwork, or even certain types of fertilizer. Boys weren't paid by the hour, but often by how much grime they brought back. The dirtier you got, the more you earned. You and Alfie sit on a half-broken bench near the wall. A barrel fire flickers in the corner, already surrounded by 3 other boys with gray-streaked hair and boots that flap open at the toes. You warm your hands, blinking through the smoke. Someone tosses in a scrap of wood, and the fire flares, casting brief shadows that dance across the wall like ghosts who never left the chimney. Charlie crouches beside you, clutching a cup of water. He hasn't spoken since the twist flew. But he's watching the flames closely, like he's trying to remember how warmth works. One boy starts telling a story about a haunted house in Kentish Town, where the chimney screams at midnight. Another swears he once saw a rat the size of a small dog crawling upward through a flue. Alfie grins. I once climbed a stack so crooked I came out of a different house. Everyone laughs, even Charlie snorts softly. You stretch your legs out in front of you, letting the heat soak into your boots. You can feel your body begin to relax like someone slowly untwisting a knot that's been there all day. You think about the soot in your hair, under your nails, in the lines of your palms. It won't come out, not really. A quick rinse might shift the top layer, but the rest stays. You've got a scar on your forearm from last winter. Slipped on a frozen roof tile. The master barked at you for losing the day's earnings while the blood ran down your sleeve. Someone passes around a crust of bread with lard scraped on top. You tear a piece for Charlie before taking your own. The lard is cold and gummy, but it coats your mouth enough to trick your stomach into thinking it's full. The boys drift into silence, just the crackle of the fire, the creak of wood settling, and the faint whistle of wind through the yard's crooked fence. You lean your head back against the wall and stare at the sky. Only a few stars manage to poke through the soot haze above London, but they're there. You wonder what it would be like to breathe clean air, to live in a place where smoke doesn't seep into your dreams. Alfie nudges you. You see what the master wrote next to Charlie's name. You shake your head. 2 ticks, he says. That's not good. You glance at Charlie, who's curled up now, back against the wall, eyes half closed. 2 ticks means weak earnings, means replaceable, means maybe no supper. You frown. He'll do better tomorrow. Alfie shrugs, if there's a tomorrow. You watch the flames climb a little higher, and you hope the soot in your lungs tonight will be lighter by morning. The fire burns lower now, its orange glow shrinking into embers, like the breath of something small and tired. You sit with your knees drawn up, chin, resting on your arms, watching sparks drift upward and vanish before they touch the sky. Around you, the boys have fallen into that half-silence that only comes from long, hard days. Not quite asleep, not quite alert, just drifting like smoke curling from a dying wick. Then comes the part no one wants to talk about, the part where things go wrong. It starts with a hiss of breath from the far side of the yard. One of the older lads, Tommy, maybe 15, but already with hands like bark, staggers through the gate, dragging his soot bag like it weighs twice his size. His shirt is torn, his face is streaked with blood and grime. One eye is nearly swollen shut. Everyone shifts, no one speaks right away. The master is already at the scale. What happened, he growls. Tommy drops the bag with a thud. Flu caught, he wheezes. Client lit the fire too early. Thought we were done. The yard stills. You feel it in your stomach first, that deep, awful twist. The kind that says, that could have been me. Historians still debate how many accidents were caused by premature relighting of chimneys. Some believe it was carelessness. Others blame miscommunication between household staff and masters. Either way, it was common enough that chimney sweeps developed a whole silent language for signaling when a stack was cold and safe. But accidents still happened. You've seen burns before. Alfie's got a patch on his arm that never grew hair again. Another boy long gone from this yard lost 2 toes when the iron grate fell on him mid-sweep. Tommy stumbles to the trough and dunks his hands in the water. The hiss of skin hitting cold is sharp, but he grits his teeth and holds. The rest of you look away not out of disrespect, but because you already know the sound. The master sighs and makes a mark in his ledger. Still brought back decent weight, he mutters. We'll call it even. Even. The word hangs like soot on the tongue. Tommy wraps his hands in scraps of linen from a sack. Someone hands him a crust of bread. He chews like he doesn't taste it. You glance at Charlie curled into sleep. He missed the whole thing or pretended to. You hope he stays asleep a while longer? You lean toward Alfie. That ever happened to you? He nods slowly. Once, back of the grocer's. They swore it was cold. Lit it just as I got my boots in. Lucky it was just smoke. You chew your lip. Ever think about leaving? He laughs. Every day. Then I remember I've got nowhere else to go. And the chimneys? Well, at least they pay. The fire pops softly. Someone tosses in a bit of kindling, and the flames revive for a moment, just enough to light the master's face as he closes his ledger. He looks tired too? Not that it earns him any sympathy. You sit back against the wall and stretch your fingers sore from bracing against brick. You can still feel the last chimney in your joints. The cold hasn't worked its way out yet, and maybe it never will. Some nights you dream of falling not down but up through a chimney that never ends into a sky that doesn't reek of coal. And other nights you dream of getting stuck. One boy across the yard breaks into a sudden cough, deep rattling, dragging something up from the lungs that shouldn't be there. He spits into the dirt and wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. The master doesn't even look up. Historians still argue whether chronic illness among sweeps came from soot exposure or general poor living conditions. But among the boys, it has a name: the climbing cough. The kind that starts low and never really goes away. You rub your chest absent-mindedly, not a cough yet, but close. The night wears on. Charlie shifts in his sleep, mumbling something, one hand curling into a fist around nothing. Maybe he's dreaming of soot. Maybe he's dreaming of rooftops. Maybe he's dreaming of something else entirely, something better. You hope so? You close your eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the barrel fire soak through your boots, your shirt, your bones. Somewhere in the city, a bell tolls the hour, 9 o'clock. That's late enough. Time to head back upstairs to the attic, to the creaking floorboards and the chill air that slips in through cracked shingles. But not quite yet. Not while the fire still burns. The fire in the barrel gutters low, coaxed now and then by someone poking at the coals with a stick that used to be part of a broom handle. You stay a little longer, the night pressing gently around the yard like an old wool coat worn heavy and not quite warm. Eventually, the master nods toward the building. Enough loafing. Off with you. No one argues. You and Alfie rouse Charlie, who blinks up in that fogged, slow way only children and chimney boys do. He doesn't speak, just stumbles upright, following behind as the group trickles back inside. The boarding house smells like it always does at this hour: soot, sweat, and wet brick. There's a kettle somewhere still warm from earlier. You pass it, tempted to take a sip, but you know it's mostly water and wishful thinking. Up the stairs, each step creaks with that exhausted sound of a house that has seen too many feet and not enough repairs. You reach the attic, push open the low wooden door. The air hits you like a slap of yesterday's cold, stale, and sharp but familiar. Your blanket is still in the corner where you left it. Thin, frayed, but it's yours. You settle in, boots off, jacket tossed to the side. Your shirt is stiff with dried sweat and soot. You should wash it. You won't. Charlie curls up in a corner, still fully dressed, his arm tucked under his head like a pillow. Alfie drops to the floor with the grace of a man 3 decades older than he is. If anyone wakes me before daylight, he mutters, "I'll put soot in their teeth." You chuckle softly. And then someone knocks. 3 short raps at the attic door. Unusual. You sit up. It creaks open slowly. A figure stands there, narrow-shouldered, draped in a shawl. Not the master, not a sweep. It's a woman. She steps inside, eyes scanning the room like she expected more or maybe less. Her dress is patched but clean. In her hand, she holds a basket. You recognize her. A widow from one of the houses on your route earlier this week. Her chimney was so clean you barely had to brush. She gave you soup and a penny. She sees you, smiles faintly, holds up the basket. Leftovers. You rise blinking in disbelief. She sets the basket down and nods once more to herself than anyone else, and leaves before anyone can say a word. You open it slowly, a small loaf of bread, a lump of cheese, 2 apples. Alfie stares. She came here. You nod. Guess she knew the way. You break the bread, pass a piece to Alfie, then to Charlie. He's awake now, just barely. Takes it, chews slowly, like he doesn't quite trust it to be real. You take the last piece and tear it in half, pocketing the smaller bit for morning. It's the softest bread you've had in weeks. Historians rarely record gestures like this. There's no ledger for kindness from strangers, no footnote for soup in a chipped bowl, or apples delivered in silence. But you remember them. Those are the moments that stick longer than bruises. You chew slowly, letting the warmth spread down your throat and into your belly. You think of the widow's face, tired but kind, of her hearth still warm, and the soot you brushed away like it mattered. Maybe it did. Maybe clean chimneys let more in than just air. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the attic window in its frame. Alfie's already asleep, snoring lightly. Charlie curls tighter under his coat, the apple clutched in his hand like treasure. You lean back on your blanket and exhale. The bread sits warm in your belly. The fire still flickers in your memory. And just for now, the world feels enough. Tomorrow, the soot will still be there. The chimneys won't clean themselves. But for now, the attic is still. The night is whole. And someone remembered you. You wake to gray light leaking through the warped slats of the attic window, like morning isn't quite sure if it's ready to arrive. The air is colder than you remember it being last night. Your fingers sting as you flex them, and your breath fogs slightly in front of your face. Around you, the others are beginning to stir. Alfie pulls the blanket over his head with a groan. Charlie, still curled like a question mark, blinks up at the ceiling but doesn't move. You sit up slowly. Your shoulders ache, your knees crack. You stretch until your ribs protest and then shuffle toward the chipped basin in the corner with its crusted ring of yesterday's wash. The water's like ice. You splash your face anyway. It doesn't wake you up so much as slap you into remembering who you are and what you do. Someone below yells, probably the master. You hear the scrape of boots on stone and the familiar clatter of the soot barrels being opened. It's morning, again. You grab your brush, the cloth still wrapped around its handle, and check the straps on your bag. Still holding. Barely. Breakfast is predictably non-existent. A scrap of the bread you tucked away last night is your only meal, a tiny blessed softness that reminds you kindness does still exist, if only in moments. Downstairs, the master hands out assignments like a dealer passing cards in a bad hand. You get 2 stops today, both known for tight stacks. Alfie winces when he hears your names paired with Wicker Lane. Crooked Chimney, he mutters. That's the one where I got stuck sideways last year. Charlie gets the forge on Milton Street. His sack is nearly empty from the day before, and you see the master eye him sideways again as he hands over the assignment. 2 ticks already. 1 more and he'll be replaced. Or vanished. It's not always clear which. You want to say something, but what's there to say? Instead, you walk, boots hitting the stone in rhythm with Alfie's beside you, your sack swinging low, your breath already puffing in the morning air. The city is awake now, smoke rising, horses trotting, street sweepers scraping muck from between the cobbles. You arrive at Wicker Lane just as the fog settles in. The house is 3 stories tall and leans slightly to one side like it's had a few too many hard winters. The flue is exactly how you remember it, thin-chipped and winding in ways that make your ribs groan just thinking about it. You go first. Alfie sets the base brush and steadies the sack. You tie the cloth over your mouth and climb in. Immediately, it's as bad as you feared. The soot is sticky, clings like wet flour. The brick is cracked in places and one loose chunk shifts as you brace your foot. You pause, breathe, keep going. You wiggle through the bend, twist, push, twist, and finally reach the upper opening. And that's when it happens. Your arm jams. Not entirely, just the wrist. Wedged between 2 bricks, your brush still clutched but stuck firm. You breathe slowly. Try to shift your weight. Twist your elbow. Pain shoots up your arm. Below, Alfie calls you all right. You don't answer immediately because honestly, you're not sure. You try again, pressing your body into the opposite wall of the flue, using your chest to gain leverage. The brush handle creaks. One last push. Snap. The brick chips. Your hand breaks free. You tumble back a few inches and catch yourself just before falling fully. Breathless. Soot clogs your throat. You cough into your cloth, your chest tight and shaking, but you're free. And more importantly, done. You drop the brush down, slide slowly back to the hearth. When you crawl out, Alfie's holding a tin mug of water like it's a trophy. You gulp it down, hands trembling. Thought we were about to chip you out, he says. Almost, you mutter. Brick gave first. Historians still argue how many boys got stuck each year, how many were rescued in time, how many were lost, quietly swallowed into brick and story. But every sweep knows that chimneys have teeth. You walk back with Alfie in silence, your wrist aching, your fingers numb. The master doesn't ask how it went, just takes the soot, checks the weight, and nods. Charlie returns later than expected, soot smeared but upright. He's quiet, eyes downcast. The forged chimney, it seems, was hotter than promised. But he's here. And tomorrow, maybe he will be again. Evening again. The sky wears its familiar charcoal veil, and the rooftops melt into the dusk like they were never separate from the clouds to begin with. You lean against the stable wall, the warmth of the day already retreating into the brick behind your back. You and Alfie don't talk much as you rest. Your wrist still throbs from earlier, and he's nursing a scrape on his shin from tripping over a coal bucket. You both sit like statues covered in soot, creaking when moved and unlikely to be dusted anytime soon. Charlie is crouched nearby, drawing something in the dirt with a stick. It looks like a house, lopsided but unmistakably not a chimney. There are trees, maybe even a cat. You almost smile. Across the yard, a few older boys have gathered again around the barrel fire, their conversation drifting across the cobblestones like smoke. This is the time of day when stories start to grow strange legs longer than truth, twistier than the flues you crawl through. Someone is talking about a chimney so haunted the brush wouldn't go up more than 2 feet before it stopped cold. Another swears he once saw glowing eyes blink at him from a soot hole on Farringdon Lane. Alfie chuckles. I ever find a ghost in a flue, he mutters. I'll just ask it to finish the job. You nudge a pebble with your boot and say, what if it's a sweep that never got out? That silences him, just for a second. And then he laughs. Well then, I'll ask real polite. Historians still argue whether these chimney ghost stories came from real superstition or just soot-addled boys trying to make sense of the dark. But after crawling inside enough places no light reaches, the difference gets blurry. You once thought you heard whispering in a flue, soft, rhythmic, but it turned out to be a loose brick settling as the temperature dropped, or at least that's what you told yourself. The barrel fire pops, sending a spray of sparks into the air like tiny fireworks. You blink and let your mind drift. Ever think about running off? Alfie asks suddenly. You shrug. Where to? He chews on a scrap of straw like it might give him answers. I don't know. Somewhere with trees, real ones, with birds that don't nest in chimneys. Charlie pipes up, not looking up from his dirt drawing. You'd miss the soot. Alfie snorts. Maybe, but only in my dreams. There's a pause. Then, I think about being a fireman, Charlie says. Still climb chimneys, but out of them. You glance at him surprised. Not because it's a bad idea, because it's the first time he's spoken that many words in a row all week. Better uniform, you say? Probably smells less like smoke. He nods solemnly, as if weighing that carefully, and they get boots that match. You look down at your own. One split at the toe, the other's a size too big. Matching boots sounds like luxury. You hear footsteps slow measured, and see the chimney doctor again, Mr. Thorne, passing the alley entrance. He glances in but doesn't stop this time. Just keeps walking, tapping that copper-tipped stick against the stones with every step. You wonder what he writes in that notebook of his. Names, conditions, warnings, or maybe dreams stolen from boys too tired to keep them. Alfie watches him go. Reckon he was a sweep once. You think? Maybe. Or maybe he just never forgot one. Someone tosses a crust of bread into the fire for luck. Someone else tosses a pebble, says it's for the ghosts. Charlie finishes his dirt drawing, leans back on his hands and sighs. Tomorrow's Thursday. Thanks, Alfie mutters. Was hoping it might be payday or the end of the world. You stretch out your legs, watching the smoke rise into the sky and fade into stars. You wonder how many chimneys you've climbed, how many more your knees can take. But not tonight. Tonight you sit, you breathe, and you watch the soot turn golden in the firelight just for a moment. The attic groans above your head as you climb the narrow stairs for the last time today. Your muscles resist with every step like they voted unanimously against the idea of doing this all again tomorrow. But up you go. You pass the same cracked plaster wall, the same peeling banister, the same warped floorboard you've avoided since Alfie nearly fell through it last winter. It's routine. It's all routine. Inside the attic smells the way it always does at night. Cold wood, worn cloth, and chimney ash clinging to every surface. The moonlight filters in through the crooked window, painting everything in soft gray. You can see your breath again. Charlie's already in his corner, curled tight around his blanket like it might escape. His drawing stick is tucked beside him, probably dreaming of that house with trees and cats he sketched in the dirt. Alfie comes in behind you, rubbing his shoulder. Think the master'll drop one of us tomorrow. You glance at him. Why? He shrugs. New boy came today. Downstairs, skinny. Looks like he'll fit anywhere. You exhale. There's always a new boy. Historians still argue how often climbing boys were rotated or replaced. Some records suggest regular apprenticeships lasting years. Others hint at a more brutal truth: once you were too big or too sick, you simply weren't needed. The cot in the corner, once home to a boy named Micah, has been empty for 3 weeks. No one asked where he went. No one was told. His soot cloth still hangs on the nail. Alfie stretches out his legs and groans. If I had a farthing for every brick I scraped today, I'd almost have enough to buy my own chimney. You snort. You'd clean it first. Course not, he grins. I'd just live in it, rent it out to birds. You both laugh softly, trying not to wake Charlie. You pull your blanket over yourself, tucking it under your arms. It's still damp near the edges. No matter how you fold it, it always is. Tonight feels heavier, not just from the soot or the work, but from the unspoken understanding that you're all getting older, bigger, and soon maybe too big. What happens then? Alfie must be thinking the same thing. He whispers, "Reckon sweeps ever retire?" You roll onto your side, stare at the roof beams, and say, "Only if they're lucky, or ghosts." He hums low and thoughtful. Might be the same thing. You fall quiet again. The wind taps lightly against the window like a visitor too polite to come in. From the alley below, you hear the usual sounds: the cartwheels, the soft cries of the costermongers heading home, the distant hiss of someone pouring out water into the street gutter. But up here, the world is quieter, slower, softer. The attic is your cocoon, not warm, not safe, but yours. You scratch at the soot behind your ear. It never really comes out. You've tried vinegar soap, even scrubbing, until your skin turned pink. Still, the black lingers, like it's part of you now. You think about your hands. They look older than they should. You flex them in the moonlight, tracing the calluses, the scabs, the faint gray smudge that never fades from under your nails. One day you imagine you'll be too big for the chimneys. Your back will refuse. Your knees will quit. Your hands won't close around the brush the same way. What then? No answer comes. Just sleep, slow and heavy, wrapping itself around your limbs like another layer of soot. Charlie stirs in the corner, murmurs something you can't make out. His fingers twitch, probably chasing cats in his dreams. You close your eyes, let your breathing sink with Alfie's slow and even. And you drift. Not down, not up, just through like smoke winding its way skyward in a crooked flue. One more night, one more climb behind you, one less ahead. And for now, the attic holds you. It's still dark when you wake, not the kind of dark that's deep with sleep, but that thin, almost silver quiet just before dawn, the kind of dark that holds its breath. You lie there for a moment, not moving, listening. The room is silent except for the low rustle of Alfie's blanket and the occasional wheeze from Charlie's corner. Your body aches in all the usual places. Your shoulders feel like they've carried the city. Your knees are stiff. Your palms itch from where the bristles bit yesterday. You stretch, and something in your back cracks softly. But you don't rise yet. Not today. Today you wait. Outside, the rooftops haven't yet begun to smoke. The chimneys are cold asleep. The city's breath is slow. Even the master hasn't shouted yet. You roll to your side, the blanket wrapped tight around your shoulders, and stare through the warped attic window at a sliver of the sky. There are clouds thin and still, and in the spaces between them, a few faint stars. It's so quiet that you can almost pretend the world is clean, that the soot is gone, that your skin isn't stained, your lungs aren't lined with yesterday's climb. You remember something odd, a dream maybe, or a story someone told by the barrel fire, about a sweep who grew old enough to retire, who opened a bakery in the country and only lit his hearth when it snowed. Probably not true, but a nice thought anyway. You glance over at Charlie. He's curled under his blanket, one foot sticking out his arm, cradling a tiny cloth bundle like it's a pet or a promise. Alfie is still snoring softly, his mouth open, hair like a tangle of black straw. You sit up slowly, your blanket falls away. The air is sharp, the kind that nips at your fingers just enough to make you grateful for movement. You rise, shake out your shirt, pull on your boots. Another day, another flu, another climb. But for a moment, just one, you stand still in the center of the attic breathing. The floor creaks under your heel. The city yawns awake. And somewhere far below, the firewood is being stacked, the stoves are being stoked, and the smoke will soon begin to rise again. You open the attic door, light spills in soft and golden and just beginning to stretch. And without thinking, without even really noticing you smile. And now, as the chimneys go quiet in your mind, let the soot settle. Let your breath slow. Let your body feel heavy and safe. You've walked through a world carved in brick and shadow, climbed through darkness, sat beneath rooftops brushed with ash, and watched stars blink above a smoke-wrapped city. You've listened to the whispers of boys who dream in soot, laughed with friends at barrel fires, and curled beneath creaking rafters with bread in your pocket and chimney dust in your hair. But it's over now. For tonight, you don't have to climb. You don't have to squeeze through narrow stacks or scrub soot from your knuckles. All you have to do is rest, right here, right now. Let the wind outside be gentle. Let the sky soften around you. Let the hush of the attic wrap around your shoulders like a thick, warm blanket. You are safe, you are still, you are home. Let your breathing slow. Let the world fade to gray. Let go of the rooftops. Let go of the scraping brush. Let go of the long day behind you and the long sleep ahead. Tonight, no fire will rise too soon. No brick will scrape your skin. No master will shout. Just this moment, just this breath, just this silence. Sleep well, little sweep. Tomorrow will wait.